But let's come back into the studio because the Department of Economics will be holding a series of public lectures to stimulate, they say, dialogue and inform policy on pertinent national issues tomorrow. And ahead of that, I have Professor Peter Korte, who is the head of the economics department at the University of Ghana, joining me for a conversation, also along with Dr. Ebo Texin. He's a senior lecturer also with the Department of Economics, University of Ghana. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
I hope you're well.
You're very well.
I think it will be good to start from the picketing and the agitations. I want to ask if the economy really can contain all these people who have been agitating for placements.
Well, we've been training people, not just for the health sector, for education, and for other sectors of the economy. I don't think our economy can absorb all of them at the same time, but we need a structured approach to absorbing them. We also have to prioritize, because if you look at the health and education sectors, these are critical areas where we cannot do without the numbers. So certainly we have to absorb them. If you go to our hospitals, you find that places where previously we had about 6 or more nurses running the place, now you have about 1 or 2. They are overworked. I mean, if you speak to public sector nurses, they will tell you they are worked to their bones. So I believe, well, it's a money issue, but still government can structure it such that quite a number can be absorbed over time. And you see, with this thing, if you register them, you have a structured approach, and you tell them in a year or 2, you're going to be absorbed. I don't think this picketing would happen. But where they don't know their future, they are just there, that is where you invite some of these problems.
Okay. And I'm just taking advantage of the fact that you are here this morning to talk about your series, but let's also talk about some national issues. This is the second year of the Akufo-Addo administration, Dr. Texin. Would you say, in view of the fact that we're getting some positive outlook comments coming from Bloomberg, if you like, the EIU as well, is the economy back on track, at least for good?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, over the last 2-3 years, if you look at what has happened in the last year, comparatively, yes, the Ghanaian economy is doing better. It's come on track. Inflation is declining. The cedi is not too stable, but hopefully it should gain some stability very soon. And there is some sense of what do you call it? Hope in this economy. I mean, in terms of the management of the economy, and you could have a sense that all economic players or firms and businesses and all those who matter in business and the economy are having this sense of good promise for the Ghanaian economy. And these are all things that are important, because I mean, investors will want to have confidence in the economy before they invest. And if you look at some of the policies that this government is putting in place, they are all policies that are very good policies for Ghana in the medium to long term. And therefore, yes, I think that the economy is back on track. Yeah.
Prof, would you say same?
Well, yes, and to a certain extent. If you look at the key indicators, as economists, there are key indicators we look to assess an economy. Economic growth. We've had some decent growth in the past 12 months. Inflation, as my colleague alluded, has gone down. Exchange rate stability is there. Is there. It's relative stability there. But then you still find some pockets of Ghanaians say we don't feel it in our pocket.
I was just going to go to that.
That is an issue we need to address. But the point I raise about that is, it's just like when it rains. Depends on where you find yourself. It will not rain everywhere. So similarly, it depends on the sector you find yourself in. If you find yourself within the media fraternity, and there was growth within the media fraternity, then you would feel it in your pocket. So I would tell Ghanaians, well, you haven't felt it, but it depends on where you find yourself.
So where's the growth now?
It's mainly from the oil sector. It's mainly from the oil sector. So if you are not from the oil sector, of course, you don't feel it in your pocket. There will be some modest growth in agriculture and also from manufacturing. Yes, but it's not as huge as what we saw within the oil sector. So people are justified in saying, yes, I don't feel it in my pocket.
To add to what Prof said, I mean, if you look at some initiatives like the reduction in taxes and other initiatives that have been put in place, they would by all means have an impact on creating jobs and then giving the private sector some allowance to also replow part of their profit back into their business to expand. And then these are things that will take time to have its impact in the economy. But once the policy initiatives have been put in place, then you must expect that sooner than later we'll begin to feel the impact of some of these policies. Yeah.
The recent special petroleum tax, 2%, I think I'm one of those who thought, okay, this is insignificant, but it also has got implications for the economy. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, certainly. You know, prices are going up, and it's certainly going to affect the pump prices for consumers. So certainly, there is a call for government to adjust or reduce the taxes on petroleum. Unfortunately, government has budgeted with this money already. So it was quite a difficult one. I mean, people were agitating for government to scrap everything. It's going to be quite difficult. I mean, you've budgeted, 2018 budget is out, and if you were to scrap this, revenue is going to dip. And we have seen very ambitious programs rolled out by government. So you see, we ought to be careful in asking for. It's good to have lower prices, but we also have to put that in context and know that if this is scrapped, where is the extra revenue going to come from? Already, revenue generation will not be meeting the target as expected, and we are relying on donor funding and many other things. So I think,
and we're talking Ghana Beyond Aid these days as well.
Yes, and yeah, of course, we're talking Ghana Beyond Aid, although I find that more of a rhetoric than because I haven't seen the program approach where we want to see, I want to exit in 5 years or in 10 years. If we have that in place, then you find in the budget statements that gradually every year the amount we budget for aid is reducing. Then in the final year it is zero. But I haven't seen that structured approach. So for now, it's a rhetoric to me.
And you want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, if Ghana is going to look beyond aid, like Professor Korte said, we need to put in place certain policies. I think that the planting for food and jobs, the one district, one factory, are all initiatives that could to propel Ghana towards that end. But it's going to take time. It's not going to be something that is going to, we have to do soon. Because if we look at the one district, one factory, if you're adding value to endowments, and then we begin to even produce import substitutes, then for our economy, we are not going to rely so much on imports, and therefore it's going to clean up our balance of payments. It will also mean that we'll begin to export manufacturers so that improves our export earnings. These are the sort of things that could generate resources for our economy, and we might not have to go and ask for aid to fund our development. So the initiatives, it's important that these policies are not driven by political parties, but then these policies are part of our national development planning, so that you don't have a case when a party leaves power, then the other party discontinues such laudable initiatives. So it is something that we need to take a look at as Ghanaians and then push this agenda forward.
Okay, so finally on this, Prof, are we sure it's going to rain across the other sectors as well? Would we feel the rain where we are? Because I can't move to the oil sector. I'm in the media.
Yeah, one. I think I must say this again. For me, the one district, one factory concept is one of the most brilliant initiatives. That if this is properly done, if it takes off, most of us will be smiling because it will trickle down to all of us. Unfortunately, it hasn't taken off. That's for me my disappointment. But it is one major policy that I really hail this government for putting this in place. It is my hope that this takes off. When that is done, so you find factories across all districts creating jobs, and together we see higher growth numbers, and then when there's growth, it's like we've grown the size of the cake. when we share, everybody gets a decent share. Yeah, so it will trickle down to
sometime this year, would we begin to feel in our pockets like we usually say?
I don't think that.
I mean, you are looking at all the outlooks, and you say that all the indicators look positive.
I mean, we shouldn't be looking at, do I feel it in my pocket? I mean, development goes beyond what goes into your pocket. I mean, initiatives like the free SHS, if it's done properly, where it's targeted at those who need them, you see that, for instance, maybe you might not need to send remittances to your family, for your folks in the rural areas because they don't need it. So it might not necessarily increase your income, but then if everybody's working, everybody's doing well, you might not need to keep your money. And that is the way in which your life could improve. So I'm not looking at maybe you seeing that you're earning 5,000 a month and now it's moved to 10,000. That's not how we should look at things. We should look at how the average Ghanaian is having an improvement in the standard of living, and that is what is important here.
Sure. Now, let's talk about the department.
Even our doomsday, the energy sector crisis, now it's been resolved. And I believe you and I feel more comfortable working. You know, our working lifestyle have changed, our living standards have changed because of just energy. You know, factories can now produce. And so, yes, you might say directly you don't feel it in your pocket, but indirectly, some of these things are trickling down to all of us.
Okay. Let's talk about the Department of Economics. First, just a little brief, when we say Department of Economics, University of Ghana, what exactly are we talking about? What would we find in your department? Who can be there? Who is there?
It's one of the oldest departments in the university. It has over 4,000 students. It can be a university on its own. I mean, compared to some of the private universities, it's quite a big institution. We have one of the highest number of faculty with PhDs, about 23 faculty members with PhDs, and of course young faculty. I remember about 70% are young faculty between the ages of 30 to 40. Not very common. We have over 5 or 6 female faculty members. We run several courses, undergraduate courses in economics. We have master's, 2-year MPhil course in economics. We also have a 1-year MA economic policy management. And we have a PhD in development economics. And this is run in conjunction with UNU Wider in Helsinki, Finland. So our students, after their first year, spent a couple of months in Finland as part of their internship programs. So this department is under the School of Social Sciences. It's also under the College of Humanities at the University of Ghana.
Okay. Perhaps Dr. Texan can take us through this event that's coming up tomorrow.
Okay, so it's a homecoming event for alumni and alumni. And the idea is to contribute to national dialogue. And what we are trying to do, which is going to continue from this first one, is to come up with very topical national issues and then bring all on board policymakers, we in academia, the private sector, to discuss some of these issues. And the first one that we are looking at is the effectiveness of monetary policy in contemporary times. And we want to find out, has been this debate, some of us have contributed to the debate of why the monetary policy rate is not having that expected impact on interest rates, for instance.
Okay. So
we are having the governor of the central bank, who is an alumni of the department. We are having the head of department, Professor Kote, who is also an alumni of the department. And then the president of the Association of Bankers, Mr. Alas Andani, as discussant to that program, the panel discussion. But before then, our main speaker would be Dr. Nikwa Kusoa, who also an alumni of the department and also taught at the department, to give the main key address on that issue before we allow the panelists to share their thoughts. So it's our way of contributing in national dialogue. We don't want the politicians to drive only the dialogue. We also need to make a contribution, and we think that this lecture series be a platform for us to contribute to national dialogue.
Okay, is this a one-off? Is this the first time you're doing this?
Yeah, this is the first time, but it's not going to be a one-off. We intend to continue this throughout the year, maybe have about 3 or 4 during the year, where we change the topics that we are discussing, and then we bring other different alumni on board to discuss these issues. And we think that we shouldn't allow the debate to be out there when we, the technocrats or those who train, seem to be on the side. We need to contribute to that dialogue in a very more formal way. And so that is our contribution to.
Prof, what are you hoping that as a society we can take out of this series?
Yes, I think of late we've seen a lot of national policies out there. Academicians, or those of us from the academics, are seen to be criticizing all the time. We also want to offer something.
With your research findings.
With our research findings, we want to offer something to policymakers. So out of this, we're going to bring out policy briefs, output that will inform policymaking in the country. And we believe if we interrogate these national policies very well and offer solutions or pragmatic ways of addressing the potential challenges, it will help government, it will help stakeholders, it will help all of us in growing our economy.
Would we move beyond that to lobby and ensure that these are also incorporated? Because sometimes we get great ideas shared, but we don't see it reflect.
We do that in our own ways. I mean, some faculty also provide research assistance to the National Development Planning Commission and all of that. So we do contribute to the policy debate and then even inform policy to advocacy and so on and so forth. Yes, but as a department, we want to use our platform to do that. So it is a good platform for us as a department to contribute to that dialogue. And so that's the essence of all of these programs that we intend to roll out. Yeah.
Who is invited?
Just to quickly add to, that's why we're even involving the media. We're inviting the public to come in. We're inviting the ministers. Yesterday I was communicating one of them to come. So it's a subtle way of lobbying them to take home some of the key ideas that will come out of this dialogue series. Everybody's invited. Once you find the economy of Ghana, or you are interested in the economy of Ghana, whether you're a national or a foreigner, and you are interested and you can attend, you are most welcome.
Okay. What time does it start?
The program registration starts at 8:30, and we're hoping to finish by 12 noon on the dot.
Are we paying some monies for participation?
No, not at all. It's free. It's virtually free. But let me quickly add that this program or this lecture series coincides with the 70th anniversary of the University of Ghana. University of Ghana is 70 years. And today, as we sit here, is being launched. The 70-year activity is being launched. So it's quite an interesting moment for us as part of the university.
All right. The university that trained you.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. I'd like to say thank you in the absence of any other thing that you want to add.
Yeah, so we expect the media to be there. We think that the media is also a critical part of this dialogue. Because, of course, I mean, you are the ones who carry the information to the general public. So once you come round to listening to the debate and you have any more questions, you are around to answer them so that when you send information out there, Ghanaians begin to appreciate some of these things and then they understand it better, so that every 4 years they are very well informed voters who go to the polls to do well in voting. So that is all part of the contribution to national development. And you are key partners, so we expect you to be there.
Thank you so much for being on.
If I may quickly add,
yes, sir.
Let me also acknowledge our sponsors, the UNU Wider PhD program, University of Ghana Business School, Joy FM, Joy Business News, and of course our co-partners, City FM. Thank you very much for hosting us.
All right. We appreciate that you came through. Peter Korte, Professor of Economics and Head Department of Economics, University of Ghana. Also Dr. Ebo Texan, Senior Lecturer, Department of Economics, University of Ghana. We've been talking about the department's series of public lectures to stimulate dialogue and inform policy on pertinent national issues. Happening tomorrow. You're invited. Make sure that you're part of this. Thank you so much for coming through.